I'm Al Hunt.
And I'm John Heilemann. With all due respect to Jon Stewart, tonight we're getting our laughs here in Cleveland. Happy Thursday, sports fans, and welcome to Debate Night here in Cleveland. In an hour, the top 10 Republican candidates are going to be taking the debate stage in the Quicken Loans Arena behind us and debate each other until we find out who is the master sayer of arguments. Al, what are you most focused on tonight in this debate?
Oh, we want to see what the Donald is really all about. Right, John? You know something? There's not going to be any really definitive moment tonight. Some people may help themselves, but this is a debate with 10 people, a session with 10 people for, about 100 minutes. They've got 7 or 8 minutes apiece. They all have an agenda. It's not going to be one of those free-for-alls. Probably impossible in a forum of 10 people.
One of those things I've always said about you, Al, is that you're not focused on substance. All you care about is flash and style and shiny objects. That's your problem.
That's why I have my purple tie on tonight.
I am not focused on Donald Trump at all. Well, a little bit. Okay, a little bit I'm focused on Donald Trump, just a little. But I'm also really focused on Jeb Bush, who has had a horrendous time basically since Trump got in the race. He's had a particularly bad time in the last week. He, I think, has more at stake than any other Republican here tonight. He's got to try to reclaim some mojo against Donald.
Well, I think you set the right predicate for Bush, absolutely. On the other hand, I think what Bush has to do is just be a serious person, because that's what he is. That's the appeal. So that can help him marginally and help him get out of his slump, at least. It's not going to catapult him anywhere.
I will be very interested also to see those people who are in that bottom part of the top 10. Right. The Jon Kasichs, who barely slipped in, the Christies, can they break through in some way? These are serious, substantive people. Will they, in this crowded debate stage, be able to actually break through in a way that registers with voters, or is all of it going to be Trump, counter Trump, Trump, counter Trump?
No, I think it'll be more the former, and Jon Kasich is playing on his home turf. So, and he may have a pretty interesting story. We'll see.
All right, we'll see. If you are just turning on the TV right now, you are late. You are late for a medium important date. Time to say hello, goodbye, you're late, you're late, you're late. The 7-person lower tier undercard Q&A debate just ended, and one of the breakout stars was former HP CEO and noted House of Cards superfan Carly Fiorina. Here she is talking
Hillary
about...
Clinton lies about Benghazi. She lies about emails. She is still defending Planned Parenthood, and she is still her party's front runner. We need a nominee who is going to throw every punch, not pull punches, and someone who cannot stumble before he even gets into the ring. I am not a member of the political class. I am a conservative. I can win this job. I can do this job.
Al, we are going to talk about the undercard and everything else about debates a lot more over the course of the next hour. But the consensus seems to be that Carly Fiorina won this undercard debate. That Hillary Clinton message, big part of it. What do you think about Fiorina, how she did?
Not much. For 3 months, all we've heard is Carly Fiorina is about to take off, because that's what the elite and the party and the press want. Right. I was in Iowa for 2 days, and you take the other novice, Ben Carson. You hear talk about him. You hear no talk in the grassroots about Carly Fiorina. She is a creature of the Republican establishment and the press, and I think it will have the same effect that it's had for the past 3 months.
Well, she has, I think, performed well throughout, and she's acquitted herself well. But it is an interesting paradox. I don't disagree with you that despite her, all the touting of her by establishment, media, and otherwise, all of the good performances she's given at cattle calls and now tonight on the debate stage, where she was very good compared to the rest of the crowd, she still is not moving and registering anywhere in the polls. I think there's a conundrum there. I don't totally understand it, but it's absolutely true. You're right.
She's also a failed CEO who was a totally failed candidate when she ran for the Senate and got clobbered by Barbara Boxer.
Al, you're waging your own one-man war on women. I can't believe what I'm hearing from Al Hunt. All right, we're going to talk, as I said, more about that undercard and a lot else about the debates shortly. But let's move on to our next topic today. The Democratic National Committee announced 6 nomination fight debates starting in October and ending in either February or March. The candidates who are not Hillary Clinton, like Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley, say that it is not enough. 6 is not enough. And Republicans suggest that the Democratic Party machinery is protecting its frontrunner, the aforementioned Hillary Clinton. Al, do they have a point?
Of course they do. And of course they're doing that. And there's 6 debates. If they had their way, there'd be -6.
That's right.
But they have to do 6. That's the minimum they can do. They're stretching them out, some after the initial contest. But, you know, John, they may not be able to control that. There may be other forums that Hillary Clinton will be pressured to join.
We will see what happens. The Republicans have kept an iron grip on their process. Democrats generally do not have anything like iron or a grip. So we'll see whether that all kind of spins out of control on the Democratic side. I have to say, I think it is a mistake for Hillary Clinton to want few debates, to want 6, to want less. I think she needs these debates. She needs to have them against Bernie Sanders. She needs to enthuse the Democratic base if she can prove herself against him. She needs to have him against Martin O'Malley. She's got to not get through this process, because I think debates are good for candidates.
It gets you ready for a general election. One of the problems Jeb Bush is having now is he's rusty.
Right.
Hillary Clinton hasn't done anything in 8 years. You're absolutely right.
I'm sure she thinks...
It's the second time I've said that tonight.
I know, it's horrible. I don't like to agree that much, but we'll get in the disagreement zone soon, I'm sure. Okay, and other non-debate news, and yes, in fact, there is non-debate news. It is the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act today. And President Obama said that there are too many ways still that discourage people from voting. Secretary Hillary Clinton chimed in on Al Sharpton's radio show that she plans on raising the issue of voting rights with the Republican nominee in a general election debate if she gets there. And a federal appeals panel has said that a closely watched voter ID law in Texas does, in fact, violate the Voting Rights Act. So, Al, on this momentous day in the history of voting rights, how big an issue do you think voting rights will be politically in 2016?
Well, I think that the Democrats will try to use it to energize particularly African-American voters, some who may not be able to vote because of some of these restrictions. But, John, apart from the politics, on the 50th anniversary, we ought to be expanding the franchise for African-Americans, for youth, for veterans. That's what America should be all about. This is a shameful exercise.
Weekend voting, electronic voting, early voting, I'm for all of it.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, I think Hillary Clinton is playing a winning hand here in the sense that she's going to have a decent percentage of African Americans, of women, of Hispanics. What she needs is big numbers of them.
The turnout.
She needs the turnout, and she's not Barack Obama. She's not that enthusiastic, generates that kind of enthusiasm. And one of the ways that she can generate that enthusiasm is to scare people and make them angry. This is an issue that I think can do both.
I think you're right on that. A third time tonight.
Oh, my God, Al, Jesus.
I'll get over it.
It always feels good to think that you're agreeing with me. All right, coming up. The best moments from the Undercard debate after these words from our sponsors. We are joined now by some special guests. MSNBC host Alexandra Wagner and Joshua Green, our colleague at Bloomberg Politics. Josh, you watched that undercard. Well, we were here on the air. You were watching the undercard. I want to hear what you think the highlights are. What do we say at Bloomberg? We say, what do we miss? What do we miss?
I think what we missed was kind of Carly Fiorina's coming out. I mean, she was clearly the one who stood out, who got all the attention. I hustled into the press row after, and when the candidates came out, there was just a stampede crushing Fiorina. I think she's the story coming out of the first debate.
Alex, I know you think there's a different story coming out of the undercard. Tell us what it is.
I am a fan of the Twitter machine, and there is a lot of talk about Ronald Reagan, a president that Rick Perry referred to. A president. Ronald Reagan has not been president. Ronald Reagan has been president. Did you hear this gaffe?
I have to admit, I missed it, but Perry has such weird intonations sometimes and movements.
There are GIFs on the internet playing over and over again the sound Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan.
Well,
Rick Perry cannot afford another oops moment. This is a different kind of oops moment.
That's certainly not going to help his cause. But he had a lot of energy.
All right, but Josh, but you apparently do not think this is an oops moment. You know, Rick Perry seemed to have a small stroke or an episode of aphasia the other day on Morning Joe when he was asked a relatively simple question and couldn't really answer that question. So this isn't that bad.
I'll be honest, it may be an oops moment.
I'm telling you, Ronald Reagan is trending on. I am become the social media expert. I'm not at all.
I'll defer.
It's a problem.
Right. I want to hear some sound from this debate. debate. So let's listen to the first thing. You talked, Brosh, you said that Carly Fiorina was the big star. Let's watch her now talking about that now famous Bill Clinton phone call to the Donald.
I didn't get a phone call from Bill Clinton before I jumped in the race. Did any of you get a phone call from Bill Clinton? I didn't. Maybe it's because I hadn't given money to the foundation or donated to his wife's Senate campaign. Here's the thing that I would ask Donald Trump in all seriousness. He is the party's front runner right now, and good for him. I think he's tapped into an anger that people feel. Since he has changed his mind on amnesty, on health care, and on abortion, I would just ask, what are the principles by which he will govern?
Alex, you're a student of Carly Fiorina. You were watching her closely.
Okay, yeah,
how effective do you think that was?
Okay, so I was an early co-signer on watching Carly Fiorina while we were out here. I said she was my one to watch. But there is something slightly church lady about that delivery. I don't know if you guys get the reference. You're such young men. But Dana Carvey is church lady, the sort of holier than thou rhetorical flourishes. I contrast this, and this is unfair, and I shouldn't do this because I'm a woman, but I contrast it to Sarah Palin, who is much more upbeat, much more gathering of the tribe. Carly Fiorina has a sort of built-in negativity to her language, her articulation of the issues, which I think may come to be a problem, although I think undisputedly she is the
To me,
emergent
she
winner.
had the poise of a woman giving a presentation in a boardroom, which is what she's spent most of her career doing.
But the
often
sarcasm,
firing people.
have you gotten a call from Donald Trump?
Well, not only did she fire people, Josh, but she got fired.
Yeah, well, there's that.
That's a problem.
I just want to point out it's been at least 130 years since someone called Al a young man, and so you're probably going to get a free dinner out of this.
But
Alex.
keep it going.
I want to move on to the next piece of sound right now. Instead of japing and jesting with these two, Rick Perry talking here, not about Ronald Reagan, but about Ronald Reagan and immigration.
Americans are tired of hearing this debate want to go to what are you going to do about illegal immigration. For 30 years, this country has been baited with that. All the way back to when Ronald Reagan signed a piece of legislation that basically allowed for amnesty for over 4 million people, and the border's still not secure. The American people are never going to trust Washington, D.C., and for good reason.
Okay, maybe for the first time ever, it turns out the Twitter machine is right.
The Twitter machine is correct.
Ronald Reagan. Al, how bad do you think that is, or good do you think that performance was for Rick Perry?
You know, if it were just his first gaffe, maybe not such a big deal. But I'm sorry, Rick Perry, who is a great retail politician, is a terrible wholesale politician, and this is a wholesale election.
And that also reveals the strategy that he has practiced that line so many times that he just flubbed it as an actor does on the stage, right?
Al's ready to stick a fork in Rick Perry because he's done. All right, let's watch a little more sound here. Sound a little more video. Listen to a little more sound. Lindsey Graham talking about what else? The Clintons.
I'm fluent in Clinton speak. I've been dealing with this crowd for 20 years. You know, when Bill Clinton says it depends on what the meaning of is, that means is whatever Bill wants it to mean. When Hillary Clinton tells you, I've given you all the emails you need, that means she hasn't. So to the people who are dying for a better America, you better change course. And she doesn't represent the change that we need. Do we all agree that ISIL is not the JV team? If I have to monitor a mosque, I'll monitor a mosque. If I have to take down a cyber wall, I'll take it. If I have to send more American troops to protect us here, I will do it. She will not.
Josh Green, did Lindsey Graham do anything in this undercard debate today to help his cause?
No, he didn't. He's a huge disappointment. My big hope coming in is that Lindsey Graham would be the Lindsey Graham you encounter in the halls of Congress. Sometimes on Meet the Press, the kind of fun firecracker guy. It seemed like he took a Xanax, and he looked kind of drugged. He didn't leave much of an impression on me.
I am not familiar with the drugs of which you speak, but Alex, you might.
I agree. I interviewed Senator Graham a couple weeks ago, and he was as candid, as thoughtful, as humorous as you could ever want a politician to be. And here, it sounds like he borrowed some painkillers from Rick Perry, maybe, circa 20.
Wow, a lot of drug talk down here from the Senator.
Well, we don't want to shock you.
Al, would
shocked
you?
too.
Al?
You know, I'll tell you something else. Substantively, Hillary Clinton and Lindsey Graham are crazy about each other. They were very close. But this is politics.
The dirty little secret.
Exactly.
Is that those two guys love each other. Just love each other. All right, you guys are all really fantastic. Josh Green, you're going to go in now and cover the debate. Alex Wagner, you're staying right here. And Al, of course.
You're not leaving.
My buddy, my sidekick. He's the man. We'll be right back with one of the candidates who is just on the stage at that undercard debate right after these words from our sponsors.
I've always been appalled by abortion. I'm a Catholic. I believe life begins at conception. But as Bill said earlier, Roe v. Wade has been the law for 42 years, and I don't think we should continue to try to change it. But what we can do is defund Planned Parenthood. And by the way, put in place an absolute permanent ban on any taxpayer dollars ever being used to fund abortions.
We are joined now by that very man. He loves to debate, and he also loves Diet Snapple lemon iced tea. Former New York Governor George Pataki, who just stepped off the debate stage. How you doing, Governor?
You had a little trouble saying that, John, but I'm doing great. Everything's
if I had my tie all the way up, I'd probably be better.
You had buttons to blaze on one button as the governor.
I know.
You came for the Snapple, not for you.
How was it? What was it like being out there? Your first ever presidential debate?
And I'll tell you, I thought I was going to be nervous, but it was really just not at all like that. Yeah. You know, I just felt it's a privilege to have a chance to speak to the American people and let them know what your ideas are.
Was it at all weird to be debating in that hall filled with no people, like just empty arena and a debate?
No, I'm a Republican in New York. I'm used to speaking in front of small crowds. No, it really wasn't. You know, it wasn't playing to the audience. It was trying to get a message that you believed in out there.
Yeah. Has a camaraderie emerged among the undercard candidates?
Some of us, you know, like Governor Perry and I were governors together, and I've always liked him and just think he's a terrific guy.
Was Governor Jindal in that coterie?
Governor Jindal's a good guy. Yes, I like him very much. And but it's also the case with some of the others, other than, I have to say, Donald Trump. You know, he always used to contribute to my campaigns and say what a great governor I was, until I said what he said about Mexicans was ridiculous and abhorrent. All of a sudden, I'm the worst governor, but that's politics, I guess.
Now, everybody's saying Carly Fiorina was a smash hit. Now, they've been saying that for 3 months, and not much has happened. But was she a smash hit today?
I think she did fine, and I think it's a great thing that, first, she was a very successful executive of a major American company, and second, she is a woman who goes after Hillary, and she can't be accused of engaging in a war on women. So I think it's a positive. And
let me actually follow up on that. You don't think that women can be accused of having a war on women if they support policies that other women, broadly speaking, think are detrimental to women and women's health?
You can attack their policies.
Sure, but like women can wage war.
But you can't say...
You don't philosophically think that women can wage war on other women?
I don't think...
I'm asking
I don't think, Alex, that you can say that a woman candidate somehow doesn't have any sensibility towards other women.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just think that you are articulating what I think is the belief in the GOP, that Carly Fiorina is the bulwark against the criticism that this is a war on women.
Not at all. Ultimately, it comes down to policies. And ultimately, it comes down to beliefs.
Well, then it shouldn't matter.
And whether you're a woman, you're a man. You know, Alex, one of the things that has driven me nuts is the dividing Americans. You know, oh, it's the middle class or the upper class or the 1%, or Republicans are engaged in a war on women, or we dislike blacks or immigrants. This is all nonsense. And what it is when you have no positive vision for the future of America, you try to divide and demonize.
Are you talking about Donald Trump now?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking about...
yours is the party that has Donald Trump at center stage.
Donald Trump.
Let me ask you this question. How did you prepare for this debate? What'd you do?
You know, I really didn't prepare much. I had a 30-second closing, and everybody before me went for a minute and a half, so I had to make it up anyway.
Were you asked anything up there that you were surprised by, that caught you off guard, or was everything just...
Yeah, I mean, the first question to all of us was, you know, you seem pretty awful. Why are you running? And that did catch me a little off guard, but, you know, I think I did fine with it.
Are you feeling optimistic?
Yeah, I am, because I think ultimately... regardless of what's happening with Trump now, and, you know, it's really kind of like a reality show gone bad, converted into the presidential contest, which I think is just dreadful. Ultimately, people are going to want someone who can govern, someone who can bring the American people together, and they're not going to want Washington to continue to be partisan and divided. They're going to want a leader who can bring us together, and that's me.
Governor, let me ask you this. You were a successful 3-term governor in a pretty blue state. And you're talking about 3 people right now today who we've been talking about. Donald Trump, no political experience. Carly Fiorina, no political experience. Ben Carson, who we can add, no political experience. But they're hotter. Is there somehow a sense that in politics experience doesn't matter?
No, I think what it is that the American people have a feeling that I have is that Washington is out of control. It doesn't reflect the interest of the American people.
But you would agree Albany's out of control, too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. It is just dreadful these days, as is New York City's mayorship. But the American people are not trusting of government, regardless of which party. And so non-politicians have this enormous appeal, which I totally understand. But ultimately, I think this is the presidency of the United States. It's the most important office, not just in the country, in the world. And I think they're going to want someone who can govern successfully. It's time for grown-up government. And that's what I hope I can offer to the American people.
Governor, we got this primetime debate coming up now in about 35 minutes. Most Republicans in the country are going to be watching it. I assume you'll be watching it yourself. But maybe a tinge of envy in your eye. Not that you're not up there on that stage in primetime.
Not really. You know, it is disappointing to me, but the rules are what the rules are. And, you know, hey, when you're a Republican in New York, there are 3 million more Democrats. You're used to having to overcome the odds. So you just fight the fight.
So what will you be looking for in this debate? Just as a viewer, as a spectator, what are you most focused on? I've asked everyone on the set tonight.
You know, to me, it's who can, you know, there are going to be a lot of sound bites, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. But who has the ability to say how they're going to do it and that they can do it? Because I think the American people are tired of hearing everybody saying what they're going to do and nothing changes. And so if someone can say, this is my agenda and I can do this by bringing Republicans and Democrats together, that will impress me, but I honestly don't expect to hear a whole lot.
What is your message to the hosts of the next debate about how they figure out how to put this field on the stage?
You know, how they did that?
Well, no, for the next debate.
Yeah, to me that was very.
What would you say?
It was disappointing because, you know, it's about name ID and popularity. And Al, as you were saying, there are a lot of people who have never held office. If LeBron James had announced he would be on that debate, and the governor of Ohio would have been with me. So it's disappointing, but it's the way it is. And,
so what's your like you're someone who stands to benefit from being on the main stage in the next debate. What would you suggest?
And I hope that I am. You just keep making the case to the American people and getting on as many shows like this as possible.
We were hoping we hear you say Governor Pataki to Fox News dropped dead, but you didn't say that. So, but thank you for coming on anyway. When we come back, Will Leach on Jon Stewart, two great men. Stay tuned. We are all out of Diet Snapple Lemon Iced Tea, but we've got a lot more to say. And while this show is normally on only for a half an hour a day, today it's on for an hour. So stick around, and we'll be right back with more debate live here in Cleveland, Ohio. Next. We're here in Cleveland, where soon the primetime candidates are going to take the stage inside the Quicken Loans Arena. We're able to catch up with two advisors to two of those candidates, Mike Duhame of the Christie campaign and John Weaver of the Kasich campaign. We talked about what their candidates have to do tonight on that debate stage to win. Both of your candidates we're not, let's say, at the top of the top 10, but both happy to have made it onto the main stage tonight. What's your guys' biggest goal for tonight and your guys' biggest goal for tonight?
Well, look, we beat expectations to get here. We're happy to be here. Every time John Kasich has a chance to tell his story about what he did in Congress, helping balance the federal budget, what he's done here in Ohio, it's a win-win for us. And so for the candidate with the lowest name ID, this is all a plus for us. So I expect to see the governor relaxed and himself and authentic, telling his story about what he's done for this country and what he's done in Ohio.
Unlike Chris Christie, who always has an authenticity problem, very rarely comes across, very rarely is just kind of the guy he is. What's your big objective? What's a win for Chris Christie?
Well, he has no problem being himself, but I would say it's very early right now in the campaign. It's the first debate of what will be many. I think it's an opportunity for Governor Christie to tell his story as well, talk a little bit about what he's done in New Jersey and also what he plans to do for the country. He's laid out the most specific plans of any candidate in the race, and I hope he gets an opportunity to talk about them today.
Al, take it away.
Mike, what do you expect of Donald Trump tonight?
I have no idea. I mean, I expect him to be exactly.
You anticipated it clearly.
Well, sure, but you know, there are 10 people on the stage, and I think for Governor Christie, it's about himself tonight, about Governor Christie and his vision and his record.
How about
I think
you, John Weaver?
I think we we've not focused on Trump. He's not something that we can have any control over, so why worry about it? And at the end of the day, this is for us a chance for Jon Kasich to tell his story.
But you guys both are being a little slightly disingenuous, right? It's one thing for you guys to say
I don't think so.
that we're not totally focused on Donald Trump, and we got to tell our own stories. But he might attack you, right? You guys do debate prep, right? And one possibility is that Donald Trump will attack you. He attacks a lot of people. So you're saying that both your candidates are utterly unprepared if Donald Trump goes after them on stage tonight to reply?
Well, first off, I don't anticipate that. If anybody attacks Jon Kasich, he's prepared for that. But we're more prepared to tell our positive story about how to move the country forward based on his record.
And thanks for bringing us on the show to insult us and call us disingenuous. It's really polite of you to do that. But seriously, this is about all the candidates have a chance to talk about themselves. It's not about one candidate. We know it's a fascination of the media, and we know where he is in the polls. Everybody understands that. But as we said, it's a very long way away right now from February.
How do you guys feel about the dynamic of being up there with 10 people on the stage? Even though we got rid of 7 from this debate, you still got 10 up there. Very limited time to tell your story, which you both say is the big objective. How do you even just break through the format problem and get across, get known, get your ideas out there?
Well, John, we take this as one event at a time. And while you guys think this is the most important event since the Ben-Hur chariot race, we see it as an important night. But we're focused on New Hampshire, Iowa, and other races, other states. So we'll do a good job tonight, and then we'll get back to work tomorrow.
Every candidate has the same issue, and every candidate's going to have an opportunity to speak tonight. And over the course of 2 hours, they're all going to have 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes somewhere in that neighborhood to tell their story, and they're going to do it. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, you can't predict what other candidates are going to do.
Hey, Mike, if you and John were to get together in the disingenuous caucus and he asked you for advice, what would you tell him Kasich should do tonight?
Because I think Jon Kasich's great. I love Kasich. I think Kasich will be himself. Kasich is always himself, so he's going to be there.
Say he's just great, just be himself. And John, what would you tell Mike?
Pretty much the same, because I know my guy and I know his guy. They're going to be themselves, no matter what Mike and I tell them.
Could you contrast their records?
Not tonight.
Not yet. Not yet. We'll wait till there's fewer people on the stage.
Exactly.
You guys are going to be, it's interesting, both of you guys, not only do you guys both were not, again, the very top of the top 10, you're both also very focused on New Hampshire. So, not more focused on New Hampshire than focused on Iowa. Why is, without in any way saying anything bad about Chris Christie, why is Jon Kasich the best New Hampshire candidate? John Weaver, you know a lot about that state.
Well, I have experience there, but I can tell you after having done maybe 10, 12 town hall meetings with Governor Kasich, his conversion rate, because of his authenticity, his message about how to move the country forward based on his record of what he achieved balancing the federal budget and what he's done here in Ohio, resonates there in New Hampshire. But we have a lot of work to do. We just got started in New Hampshire. They have a big head start on us there. They have a great organization, but we're growing, and I'm pretty confident we'll do well there.
Mike, why is Chris Christie the best candidate for New Hampshire?
Well, I think the governor's message right now is resonating. Certainly there are things that distinguish him, his record as U.S. attorney, his ability in terms of using the Patriot Act and to fight terrorism, also as well as being a chief executive, also being a governor of a blue state where you have a Democratic legislature is different than the other governors, and certainly having to work with and sometimes in opposition to a Democratic legislature is good practice really for Washington.
And John, you have Senator John Sununu in your camp. Will he deliver his father for you?
I don't think he would speak for his father on that, and we're happy to have Senator Sununu, and I think the people of New Hampshire, at least a lot of Republicans, know that we can't win the White House if we don't carry Ohio as a party. And you look at what Jon Kasich has done here, carrying 86 of 88 counties, 60% of the vote plus. That's selling with activists, not just in New Hampshire, but around the country.
And Mike, how much time will you spend in Iowa?
Well, the Governor Christie was there the last 2 weekends in Iowa, so we'll spend a certain amount of time in Iowa. Certainly, it's no secret we've spent more time in New Hampshire than anywhere else, but we certainly have spent a good amount of time in Iowa this year as well.
I'll tell you, for anybody who says that Chris Christie isn't interested in Iowa, when I saw him at New Hampshire with Mike last week, he was going to Iowa and foregoing seeing U2 for a second time in Madison Square Garden. I thought, for Chris Christie, who loves U2, not as much as he loves Springsteen or Bon Jovi, but for him to give up a U2 concert to go to Iowa, Iowa must be an important part.
It's serious. That's how you know it's serious.
Important part of your strategy. I have a question for you about Trump, not a debate question, but just a question in general. I would say 2 months ago, when Trump came out, many people in politics, I don't know about you guys, but thought this is a time-limited phenomenon. It'll have the summer, it'll burn itself out. Who knows? He might not even still be in the race come October, November. At this point, do you guys anticipate that Donald Trump will still be a factor all the way up until when votes are cast in Iowa and New Hampshire in February?
Well, it's totally unpredictable, as you know, just the nature of him and his decision-making. I'm anticipating a lot of people staying in the race a lot longer than they used to because of campaign finance rules, etc. I think this is like a NASCAR race where people are going to stay much longer than they normally would.
You love those NASCAR now.
Don't even bring that up.
And you figure Trump around for the long haul, or at least until votes start getting cast?
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I think he shot up so high in the polls. We saw a lot of people shoot up high in the polls in 2012 and then go back down shortly thereafter. I don't know what's going to happen. This is an unpredictable race. 17 people. You have probably the strongest field we've had in any of our lifetimes, so I think it is hard to predict. And as John says, there will be a lot of people, I think, in there for a long
time. Do you have any sense of something Jeb Bush might do tonight?
No, they haven't told me.
No.
If you hear, though, let me know.
Our thanks to John Weaver and Mike Duhane. When we come back, adios, Jon Stewart. Will Leach bids his adieu after this. As every politically sentient being in America knows, Jon Stewart is leaving The Daily Show tonight after 16 years. And the only appropriate way for us to celebrate his impact on politics was to ask the great Will Leach to take us through the classic battle that Stewart waged seemingly endlessly. We're talking, of course, about Jon Stewart versus Fox News.
Jon Stewart leaves less as a funny man and more as a political institution. A truth-telling hero to the left, and a smug New York liberal partisan hack to the right. Stewart mocked political figures, then became a political figure. The reason? His old nemesis,
Fox News Channel.
Fox News. Ideological opposites, sure, but Fox News' success also brought out the best and the worst in Stewart. Stewart could mock Newt Gingrich or Donald Rumsfeld, and it felt like general, typical satire with maybe a little bit more bite.
How dare you, sir? How dare you, in front of all the good people of South Carolina, ask me about something as tawdry as my 3 somewhat overlapping marriages? I assume you're about to say something like, I can't imagine possibly commenting on something like this, given my dubious relationship with good governance.
But Stewart found his truest power as a broadcaster and an influencer when Fox News began to take off during the beginning of the Iraq War. That's when the network took a certain conservative ideology and, through Roger Ailes' television genius, weaponized it. Suddenly, Stewart had a target.
It's recommended you only watch Fox through a tiny pinhole poked in a piece of cardboard. You can't look directly at Fox. It will indelibly burn your soul.
Not only did Fox provide him around-the-clock content to mock, he had an enormously powerful target. Soon, Stewart was mocking Fox News more than he was mocking those actually in power. And Fox News loved punching Stewart back.
Jon Stewart says he's both liberal and fair.
Jon Stewart gives his view from the left, but can't admit he's a liberal mouthpiece.
This elevated Stewart, and for a while, it led for a delightful back and forth between media entities at the peak of their powers. It was riveting to watch and hilarious.
The point is, you were right. And that is newsworthy when Fox is right. And cause for celebration.
But it may have elevated Stewart too much. He began to use his power as the face of liberalism in ways that were more overtly political than satirical, most famously with his rally to restore sanity in October 2010.
We are to get through the darkness and back into the light. We have to work together. And the truth is, there will always be darkness. And sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel isn't the promised land. Sometimes it's just New Jersey.
Stewart's earnest, tear-filled speech Well, it was about as far from political comedy as it gets. Stewart began to feel more like a participant in the exhausting back and forth of the ugly world of political discourse than a respite from it.
I don't think overall he's been a force for good, because I think especially in his later years he got a little nasty. I think he got a little burnt out.
You could see it start to wear on him. And when you're fighting an enemy as powerful and relentless as you are, as Fox News was, and with just as many resources, it becomes increasingly difficult to tell who is winning.
For the past, I'm going to say like 12, 13 years, Fox News and I have been having kind of a fun, lighthearted, and I think extremely productive conversation about which one of us is the bigger They, perhaps not surprisingly, believe it is me. Whereas I have taken a different approach and tend to lean towards the idea it is perhaps them.
The announcement of his retirement brought some life back into The Daily Show. The humor has been less stiflingly ideological, but you can still tell that Stewart has become exhausted by these political wars, the constant fighting with Fox News. Now he is going out the way that he came in, at last just concentrating on being funny in a political way, rather than political in a funny way. Still, in the end, Fox News changed Jon Stewart, I suspect, more than Jon Stewart actually changed Fox News.
Our thanks to our colleague and friend Will Leach, who is always a genius and never more so than then. We've got Mr. O'Donnell, Ms. Wagner. We're going to have more debate chat with them after this. We are back with Alex Wagner and Republican strategist Brett O'Donnell. Brett, psyched to have you here for a couple reasons. One, you had a candidate up on that stage. I should say you are one of the kind of renowned experts in debate prep in Republican politics, maybe in politics in general. So we're going to talk about some general things, but I want to talk about your candidate tonight, Lindsey Graham, who you did help prepare for this debate, his first presidential debate. Kind of by universal consensus, he did not do that well. Tell us about what you thought of your guy's performance.
I thought substantively he had a really great debate. I mean, if you look at what he had to say about being commander-in-chief, I don't think there was anyone else on that stage who is his equal in terms of knowledge and in terms of being truthful with the American people about what it will take to defeat ISIS and keep America safe and secure.
And yet the performance lacked some zip, some zing, some verve, some vim.
Yeah, you know, maybe some first debate jitters. For sure, maybe a few first debate jitters, but I think, you know, that was common with some of them as well, and I don't think that takes away from the message, which is most important.
Was first debate jitters something you thought he might suffer from, given the fact that he speaks on the Senate floor, you know, speaks frequently in public, is very comfortable and at the podium, as it were?
Well, these lights are brighter than any other, in my opinion, you know, and so running for president is tough, and he's adjusting to this. I think anyone who does this for the first time, and remember, a lot of the folks that were on that stage have run for president before and have experience. So, you know, but all in all, I thought he had a good night. Most people are saying that he was right there with Carly Fiorina, and I think if you look at his message, he had a great message to deliver tonight.
He is a loose, funny, charming guy. Yeah. And he often is that way on television too. It's not just in person. He's not one of those guys who, you know, is stiff on screen, but when you meet him, he's great. He's funny in a lot of situations.
Oh,
kind
absolutely.
of surprising that he was not. I know there's a lot of jitters, but kind of surprising he wasn't able to summon a little bit more of that. I don't mean to be harsh to him.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I
Tell
think
us, Brett, why he was so bad tonight.
Right. No, I'm not going to do that. You're right. So, but if you go back and look, I think he had a pretty good funny line. You know, he talked about Hillary Clinton and the Clintons and said, "Hey, when Bill says the meaning of is," you know. So I think he kind of went through a couple good things that were funny. But you know, keeping the country safe and secure is a serious business. And I think he was trying to portray the one message, which is any candidate who's not willing to acknowledge that we need to send troops back to Iraq is not prepared to be commander-in-chief. That was the message he was trying to deliver. And let me tell you, this is tough stuff. You know, I coach because, you know, the old saying goes, those who can't do, teach.
Yeah.
So this is tough stuff.
Who in the main fight tonight, in just a matter of minutes, are you most interested in? And please don't say Donald Trump, and tell us why.
Yeah, it's Jeb Bush. I think that Jeb Bush has a lot of pressure. You know, the story out today with Jeb's private conversation with a donor. I know it's probably going to get asked about in the debate or brought up, and how he handles Trump will be very telling about what he's made of as a candidate, and I think that's what people are going to look at. I think Scott Walker has the pressure on as well.
So do you think that Bush has both the most to gain and the most to lose, in a sense? I mean, this is the Trump thing has always been for him both a quandary, but also an opportunity, it seemed to me, as a moment where he could really rise to the occasion. First, do you generally agree with that point?
Yeah, I do, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a huge upside for the governor tonight if he handles Trump properly.
And if you were advising him, would you be trying to counsel him to find a way to have a moment of strength, as Alex Castellanos likes to say?
Absolutely, I would. I mean, I think that, you know, Trump has made a living out of going after the governor and a couple of others, but mainly Governor Bush. Yeah. He's maligned his wife. He's maligned him. And so I think there's an opportunity for him if Trump attacks him. I think he's got to wait till Trump attacks him. He shouldn't initiate to basically a counterpunch Trump and then move him from the center of the stage and take command of the stage.
What is amazing to me is we have gone through nearly 2 hours of broadcast and not talked about Christie or Ted Cruz. And if you talk about level of bombast, likelihood of verbal debate attack, you know, 2 months ago, it would have been those two. Where do you think they are in the sort of panoply of candidates tonight in terms of aggression and in terms of response?
I think they're fighting for airtime. Ted Cruz is a great debater by all accounts. I mean, the National Journal has a great piece out about his parliamentary college debate days. And Christie has made a business out of speaking as well. So I think they're both very talented. There's a lot of talented people on the stage.
Should they go on the offense tonight?
I think you're at your own peril if you initiate an attack against Trump. Now, whether that means you go on offense against Governor Bush or Scott Walker, I think that's another story. I really think that it's their job right now to have a moment where you seize the press's imagination. That doesn't have to be at the expense of someone else, and you get your message out. Message is really important.
You mentioned college debate a second ago in the context of Ted Cruz. You were yourself a champion college debater, if I remember correctly.
College debate coach.
College debate coach. All right, fine.
Those who can't.
Again, those who can't.
Still a champion, though, right? And you have done debate prep for a lot of people. John McCain, Mitt Romney, others in the past. If you look at the entire Republican field and take Lindsey Graham out of the conversation, just in terms of raw skill, in terms of if you could pick one of them to be your pupil because you thought they had the most potential to be a dominant force in the debate, who would that person be?
Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio.
He's very talented. He's very well spoken, knowledgeable on issues, up on foreign policy, which I think is essential to go against Hillary Clinton, who's going to make claims about foreign policy from her experience as Secretary of State. I think he's extremely talented. I think that very coachable, and he's got the likability factor. People like him when he talks. He's not threatening. I think he'd be very formidable.
What are you expecting? I mean, arguably, the Fox News moderators have a very, very, very thin line that they have to walk, and they could be in an unwinnable situation depending on how this nets out. What would your advice be to the moderators if you were coaching them?
Well, they wouldn't take my advice, first of all, because they see their job as getting them to mix it up. And I think their job should be to get to know their positions on issues, to make the debate substantive. The last debate was substantive, but it didn't start that way. There were a few questions that were kind of processy at the beginning, demeaning, in my opinion, to the candidates. Why are you up on stage? These are people of accomplishment running for president of the United States. It's their business. It's our business to find out what they stand for, why, and how they move the country forward.
These debates are defined often, these televised debates, by big moments as much as anything else. You can try to prep for them, you can try to script them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But humor is often at the core of it. Sure. And many politicians don't have that gene. They can't be funny. Yeah. Some of them really do. Yeah. Among these Republicans, who has the humor gene? Who could deliver a line that was either sarcastic or funny in a way that would be really devastating?
I think there's actually several on the stage who've got that. You know, Mike Huckabee's delivered some funny lines. Christie is humorous, some at his own expense, which makes him a little human. I mean, you know, there's a couple of them that have some good personalities. You know, I think of, you're exactly right. I think of the moment like John McCain when he talked about being all tied up during Woodstock. Totally. Brought the house down.
Brilliant moment.
That seized the, and that's what I'm talking about. They've got to find a way to seize the imagination of the audience and the press and take command of the stage.
Brett O'Donnell, you are a good and great man. Thank you for spending this time with us. You can coach Alex.
Those who need get Brett O'Donnell.
After the break, our thoughts, the last thoughts. Jay Heil, A. Wags. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
You ran for the White House once and lost. You ran for the Senate one time and lost. You haven't held public office in 13 years.
You ran for Senate and lost.
You failed to beat Mitt Romney for the nomination.
You called it quits. In a recent poll that showed you in a head-to-head against Hillary Clinton in Louisiana, she beat you by several points. So if the people of Louisiana are not satisfied, what makes you think that the people of this nation would be?
Is it time for new blood? Has your moment passed, Senator? Why should someone vote for you now? How can they trust you?
Given your current standings in the polls, is the Iron Lady comparison a stretch?
Ouch! Ouch, ouch, ouch. But will it be tougher on the main stage? We will find out in just a minute. We cannot wait. Our thanks to all our guests. We've had an incredible time here in Cleveland. My greatest thanks to Al Hunt, Alexandra Sway Wagner. And she's going to say goodbye. Say it, Alex. Go ahead.
Namaste, everyone.
And sayonara.